My name is Eli Cohen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SalesHood. I'm here with my dear friend, David Appel from Sage. David, please say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody,
And
or good morning.
great to be here. Great to be here. So quickly, we have a really jam-packed agenda of items that we want to cover. Today, we're going to talk about virtual sales coaching. And please, share where you're from, share where you're listening from, in the feed. I always love knowing where folks are around the world. It's super interesting. And, it's rare. Everybody talks about virtual sales coaching. Everybody talks about sales enablement. It's hot. One of the hottest topics today in B2B SaaS. But what we wanted to do today was bring a sales leader who's leaning into sales enablement, leaning into virtual sales coaching, and seeing tremendous results. So this is what's unique about this session. David is a super accomplished sales leader who has been doing sales enablement for many, many, many years, and it's been a key success factor for him across his teams as he's grown and scaled his organization. And so today's goals are following. First, we're going to share with you some themes. David's going to share kind of his secret sauce. And his secret sauce of he boosts the productivity of his teams, and we're super grateful that he's here with us. And we want to ultimately get each of you to walk away with some tips around how you can replicate success with your teams. You know what? You should be able to walk away, listen to David's story, listen to David's tips, and an amazing framework we have that we're calling model. And you should be able to implement things immediately with your team so you can deliver great revenue outcomes, boost win rates, all with virtual coaching and virtual learning. So how does that sound, David?
I'm laughing when Eli asked me to do this because I can spend the whole time telling everybody what not to do from all the mistakes we've made over time. But if some of the ideas, by plunking away at this, can help each of you, because I'm just like you. We're trying to build a great team, trying to build a predictable forecast, trying to have a lot of fun along the way. And I hope that comes across with what we share.
Thank you. Thank you. I see we've got some folks from Puerto Rico. We've got folks from California. I love it, Dave. It's great. We've got a global meeting here of folks who are all interested in learning from you and hearing some great tips. So before we dig in to your story, I thought it would be good to level set, right? So what we're seeing in the industry is the current reality of sales performance is way below expectations. What we're seeing is, we're spending so much money in automation. We're spending so much money, trillions of dollars investing in helping our teams, trying to get our teams to be productive, hiring, recruiting, enabling. Think how much money we're spending. Yet ramp time is still way below expectations. Win rates are not hitting the mark. Quota attainment, I think the latest stat is 50% of our reps, and that's on a good amount, are actually hitting their numbers. So we've got sales teams that are underperforming globally. It's a global problem. And so, Dave, I know this isn't your team, but what are you hearing in the industry around sales performance, broadly speaking?
Well, we're all in the same spot, right? We've got our ringers that pull a lot of the number for us, and then we've got a lot of the other folks we're trying to coach up. And it's a constant battle. And then we're going to spend some time. Eli and I tried to pull together 5 distilled points, kind of come up for everybody on pulling the message together. But wherever you're at, as a mentor of mine once said to me, David, we need more now. So I don't know if each of you are in that same spot, but we all need to deliver more now.
I love that. I wonder how many of you that are here are realizing or agree with these stats. Are you at 100% quota attainment? Are you at 50% quota attainment? Are 20% of your sellers generating most of your revenue? We're seeing 30 to 50% of attainment. We'd love to share some comments in the chat. Let us know kind of where do you stand with this benchmark information. Listen, I know this. I know David has done extremely well over the years, and I know he's been coaching his teams virtually, even before virtual coaching was a thing. And David would love to just hear some highlights, right? What are some of the successes you've had over the years, growing your team, getting your teams to club, driving the amazing success, helping Sage, helping Intacct get acquired by Sage? You've had so much success. Give us some of the high level of the story, the punchline, so to speak.
Let me kind of net it out in 2 things, and Eli and I am prepping for this for all of you, because we've all been in so many of these sessions, and what are the real takeaways? So I'm going to try to tell in stories and keep the takeaways real simple. But the first one is this. We really rely on product marketing to understand the customer journey for us. A lot of interviews and just ask people. They go, why buy? Why now? Why us? And then we model that into steps in the sales process. And like you, I already know who our great leaders are that are going to try something new and make it work. And then others are going to follow them. So it's like encouraging your ballers just to get it done and then making it easy for everybody else to follow them. So product marketing tells you the buyer's journey.
Yep.
And then you help your ringers really get it done and make it really easy for everybody else to follow executing the journey that people laid out.
No, it's great. And so like if you were to look at the success of your team over the last 12 to 18 months, 2 years, if you were to kind of look at your dashboard, win rates, attainment, deal size, how's your team doing in general? I know you can't share too much.
Public company, right? So you can follow the earnings, but the stocks, people are putting their appreciation into the stock. So we're having a lot of great success there. COVID's affected many people on the personal level in horrible ways, for better, for worse with us, because we're a cloud offering. It accelerated adoption of our product. So that's been helping our growth, and it's make the team successful, to make our company successful. We help companies understand their cash flow before and after so they can better invest in the business, and everybody's really trying to do that right now. So we're in a really fortunate spot on product market fit and then putting that into a repeatable process.
And you've done great. I know when Sage acquired Intacct, and this is public, one of the reasons why Sage bought Intacct was the high productivity of the sales teams, right? The sales teams were performing because they were selling this amazing cloud solution. And so that's a direct result of the work you were doing to build the foundation. And so kudos to you, kudos to Sage, and we're a happy Sage customer as well. And that's a whole other conversation. And so Dave, what we did, which I love, listen, you got to come to these events. You got to listen to these speakers and keynotes, and we want you to walk away with something. And so Dave and I sat down and we said, okay, let's distill down into a framework. What are the 5 things Dave does with his team on a regular, consistent basis, right? 5 things, right? And so I'm going to read them. Make it easy for people to do what you need them to do. Right now, think about it. You're either a VP sales or a CRO running either a large sales organization, or you're running your up and coming company. You want to make it easy for your teams to do what they need to do. And when we go through each bullet, Dave's going to explain with some color. Or you're a frontline sales manager, right? You got to make it easy. You got to make it easy. 2, you got to optimize how your team is learning from each other. Think about that for a second. You can't just be the one teaching them. They need to learn from each other. Big productivity boost happens when reps, when sellers, when teams learn from each other. Number 3, you got to develop your team to perform like your best. I love that, right? We want to lift everyone. Think about those key metrics we talked about: attainment, quota attainment, win rates, ramp time. We got to lift everybody up. How do you do it? Dave's got the secret. Everybody needs to be on message. The story needs to be the same. Folks need to be conversationally competent. And then finally, you got to lead with data. You got to lead by expecting what you inspect. And I love it. The dashboards, the reports, the correlation, the causation. Dave, are we ready to go through a few of these?
Let's go.
Let's get in. All right. So the first one, make it easy for people to do what you need them to do, right? I think I'll start, and then David will share some color on this one, right? I think first, the way that we make things easy for people to do what they need to do is, you got to be clear on the why. You got to be clear. You got to connect those dots. You got to show the go-to-market priorities, the go-to-market, what is it that you need them to do and why? And that needs to be clearly laid out, needs to be clearly communicated, and it needs to be available to them so that way there are no obstacles or no objections. And folks can't say, I can't find something, I can't do something, I don't know what to do. You got to eliminate all that. Like, Dave, what would you add?
Well, the premise behind this is, how many times have you talk to a high school buddy and just like, I just need people to do this. And it's so hard to get people to do what you need them to do, because in general, we're more senior than our teams. We've been around the block, right? If you worked 2,000 hours a year, 10 years of working more seniority, that's 20,000 hours of doing something more than your teams has. And you want to guide them into it. And instead of getting frustrated though, how do you just lower the barriers to do this? What Eli's laying out is breaking it into still steps and not doing too much at once. We just try to focus on one behavior a month. But at the end of 12 months, you've got some notable change in everybody. And this is how we're helping to get ramped down.
That's great. I love what you just said. We're going to focus, prioritize. We're going to pick one thing. We're going to have them do it this week, this month. And it's great. I'm just curious, as people are listening, what's the one thing that you need your teams to do right now, right? Think about that. Is it generate pipeline? Is it you got to get them to be better at the pitch? Whatever that one thing is, get everyone to do it together and make it super easy for them to do. And, I think the idea of getting teams to do what you need them to do is coupled with the notion of getting them to do it together, right? And so I firmly believe, and I founded SalesHood. We're a purpose-built, all-in-one sales enablement company with the core value of having salespeople, having people in the system, teams learn from each other. Huge differentiator for us. I learned that from my time at Salesforce, and I believe in it with my heart, and our data proves that it drives amazing outcomes. And, David also has been a great proponent of this, bringing teams together, getting them to share, getting them to learn. And you can see here, this is an example of what we call a coaching huddle. And a coaching huddle is a way where you can systematize getting teams step by step doing things together, right? They can record a pitch, they can do a deal review, they can do things like they can share a live call. But what you see here is a leaderboard, and what you see here is how they are giving each other feedback. So, David, how do you optimize getting your reps to learn from each other? What have you done in the past that's been successful for you?
Well, if you're like me, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to raise the bar on the team. And just doing this a long time, you come to realize people do a little bit of what I say or ask, but no one ever made change in their lives because someone put a spear in their back. They make change because they're trying to get someplace. And if you oversimplify the world into three buckets, which is people that are going to change themselves because they're self-motivated, people that are going to change because they don't want to get left behind, and people that don't want to change, you just embrace the first ones and make them successful. To what my earlier point was, because this group is going to follow that group. And it's not all on your shoulders. You just put in a bottle what they're doing.
Yeah.
And back to what the buyer's journey is. And then this third group, I'll let you make your own decisions on what to do, because sometimes you get great lone wolves that find a way just to crush the number in their own way. Embrace those, and sometimes you've got other outcomes.
You got to optimize creating a space for them to be able to share. And whether they share before your regular huddle, or whether they share during your huddle, or whether you're sharing synchronously or asynchronously, as a leader, you need to prioritize. And this is a big lesson, right? I think, I'm sitting here preaching a little bit, and Dave has been driving this as a lever of growth for him over the years. And this is why I've asked Dave to join me, because he's been such a great success. And so why is it important to get teams to learn from each other, right? Why is it important? Because you ultimately want to get your teams, you want to get more of your people to perform like your best, right? You hire a team, you've got 6 to 8 people on your team, or you've got 30 to 40 people across teams. Everyone's good at certain things. Some are great at storytelling, some are great at process, some are great at prospecting, some are great at the pitch, some are great at like whatever their skills are. They're all great at some baseline skills, but then there's things that they do uniquely that are uniquely different, and that they can learn from each other, right? And so, Dave, what have you seen over the years of your team, and how you've been able to, that's my little timer, how you've been able to get your teams to kind of develop more of your people to perform like the best?
Well, I want to say one last thing on the last
oh, sorry.
And lead it into this one, which is, pending what your privacy guidelines are in your company, look at the Slack or whatever your instant messaging conversation is between your reps, and you'll be really surprised at how much of this is already happening and you didn't already know. Don't get in the middle of it. Don't stop it, but realize how much it's happening, because then go to the next point, Eli, which is everybody's got your top rep. the one that's pulling in the number, that's crushing it. If I, you don't have to say it, but if you want it, if you want it on the conversation here, the chat on the side, just put on there if you got a top rep. We don't need the name. If you want to say the name for some recognition, say it. But we all got a top rep, and everybody asks her or him for advice over time, and you'll see that in the chatter. And there's some of the stuff is intangible based how they were raised. I had a rep working for me once who grew up on a small farm in a European country and would help her dad literally work the farm and milk the cows and all that stuff with boots to keep the mud off up to her knees. And she just said, I want to get out of this. I don't want to do this anymore, and set a goal for herself. And now she's got, 10 pairs of $500 shoes.
Right.
And like, you can't match that, but she's got her own driving, but other people follow her, and you can take some of the stuff out of it. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Frederick, on the comments on the side. You can pull out what are they do that, the prep work they do to understand the client ahead of time, the research that they do to understand likely what the customer's underlying business issue, the taking the time to find a story that's like that ahead of time and telling it, lining up the reference earlier in the process. Because of that trust, putting a mutual success plan in place that the customer will do, not just for perfunctory to get the rep off their back, but because they want a little capture some of the lightning that they heard in the story of the person just like them because the rep did the research. You can capture that and put that together based upon how your top reps do it. And again, back to the first point, you're not trying to over engineer it. You're just trying to make it easy for people to do what's the most successful.
Listen, we want all of our reps to be like our best, right? So let's pretend that Alice was our top rep. She's an amazing seller. She's the top of the charts. She does the best pitches, the best proposals. As a sales leader, you could create a campaign in your training and in your learning internally. Let's be like Alice. Let's get everybody to be like Alice, right? And then you would start modeling the training and the coaching and the selling and all the behaviors that you want, the templates around Alice. That would be a great thing because you can train people and coach people, but if you could give them an example and show them and then give them the assets, give them the conversation examples, have them get feedback from each other, that's what we're trying to impress upon everyone here is, you know what, sales enablement and revenue enablement isn't something that's done outside of the workflow of frontline managers and sales leaders. You got to pull it in, you got to own it, and you got to use these 5 tips that David has, and we got 2 more to go, to really help you elevate what you're doing inside your teams around learning and coaching, because ultimately you got to boost the win rates. And so I love it. Be like Alice, right? That's the ultimate. And I know you've got a bunch of folks that have worked with you that we've modeled against, but that's my challenge to each and every one of you. Who's that person? If you were to create a t-shirt or you were to create, like a pin and be like that name, figure out who that person is, look at their skills, look at their knowledge, look at the way they pitch, and build programs around them so you can make it easy for your people to replicate success and not copy, because they still need to personalize. They still need to own the message, which really gets us to the next point. Should we get to the next one? Right. And so owning the message, right? I'm a big believer. When I was at Salesforce, Mark Benioff would drive messaging alignment as the #1 initiative for the sales organization every quarter. At SalesHood, that's kind of the heart and soul of our company. We help companies get their teams on message. And so why is it so important, David, for organizations, for sales leaders, for frontline managers to get everybody to make sure that everyone is on the right message? Why is it so important?
Well, again, if you want to get involved on the chat, how many of you have pulled aside your reps and asked them to give the value prop, the elevator pitch of the company? And if you haven't, I offered as an interesting experiment to run, and the difference in the stories that you hear. Some of it's fine, it's open and independent, like based on the rep's personality, but then you get so much variance, and the company works so hard, right? Product works so hard to understand the ideal use case and model it in the product, and marketing works so hard to try to reach that person in the marketplace, and on and on and on. You as the leader own bringing consistency of that to the customer, because all the research has shown that's what you should say, and give the reps some space, but do it. And the #1 way to do this, one of the great things I personally love about SalesHood, is it creates the forum for people to practice, and practice in front of their peers because people people don't like looking like schmucks in front of their peers. And so if you can, they will prep and want to look good in front of their peers, and then that practice has them crush it when they're live in front of your prospects.
And the idea of taking a pitch, making it available to your teams, knowing that they've watched the gold standard. As a leader, I know, David, you record your versions as well. Getting everybody on the team to kind of, read the scripts, and then they're practicing, right? And as David said, what I know this. They're going to record it, they're going to share it, and if they don't do well, it'll be the last time they're at the bottom of the leaderboard. And then they're going to share live calls, so you can do see how it's playing out in real calls, right? That's a process. You got to make that process easy. You got to make it accessible. You got to create that space, and you got to prioritize it, and you got to explain the why. These are all the things David does well, and that's a 10-step process, right? And for anyone listening, we do have a trial, and we would love if you're interested in taking Dave's challenge. How does my pitch sound right now? How are my teams? What's their 2-minute elevator pitch? I know the number of chief revenue officers and VP sales that actually can't answer that question with confidence is high. So we'll give you a 2-week trial. You can just get everyone on your team recording their pitch, and then you'll know, and then we can help you actually boost their conversational confidence. But do you really know? That's the question. And the knowing will show up in the data, will show up in revenue, in pipeline. And so should we go to the next one? Any other points here, Dave, to cover?
No, I think Ryan chat on the comment. Ryan, I think that's good, because you're right, we're kind of thinking, as much as Eli and I prep, we are somewhat doing this on the fly. And I think that's an important clarification you want to make, that you want great diversity and inclusion across your entire team of all their backgrounds, the unique attributes that they bring. I also hope, Ryan, you'd grant me the point that there are some unique differences that put certain people at the top of the list year after year after year, that are behaviors that you want to try to model that have everybody apply in their own way. So I hope that's a clarification to do that. But thank you. And I think that's a great point for us to.
I think, listen, we're using the Be Like Alice as a metaphor, right? I think it's we absolutely are proposing that you need to have a complete diverse set of skills, and you want to have a number of top performing sellers that represent a broad set of skills. Like I said, some are great at storytelling, some are great at pitching, some are great at process, some are great at emails, some are great at demos. And if you can take the best of each one and then model a program around all of those skills and all of those people, home run, right? And absolutely, I think if we had every one of our salespeople recording their pitches, and then, by the way, so this kind of comes full circle, right? So we've been talking a lot about aligning your teams, getting them on message, measuring the collaboration, getting them to share, getting them to do things together synchronously and asynchronously. What happens is, if you have a real sales enablement system, and if you're measuring their activities, and you're doing what David does, running weekly huddles with his teams, getting his teams to contribute information, share their presentations, share what's working, share what's not working, guess what's happening? They're actually engaging, right? When someone records a pitch and they get feedback and they go watch 5 pitches and they score 5 of their reps, 5 of their peers, right? The act of learning from each other, when it's asynchronously in a system, you're accumulating data. And then that data can be correlated to pipeline information, can be correlated to win rates, can be correlated to quota attainment. So that way hey, look at this. David has been doing all the work, completing all of the assignments, doing all the pitches, scoring the best from the peer reviews, and using most of the assets that we're giving him. Of course he's going to be in the top right. Look at that. The data proves it, right? And so I just really wanted to make sure that folks have their key metrics and KPIs kind of documented. And, David, what would you add? Lead by expecting what you would inspect. What do you want to add around these points?
First off, winning feels good. Making money feels good, right? And this is back to this common theme we're trying to share all along. If you can break down what the buyer's journey is, what they hope for from you, and put that in a repeatable process that allows people to have a model to be able to who to follow against, and you reinforce it, it's great. And it's it's the old expect what you inspect, right? Back on the pipeline and the forecast that you're trying to do, and you want to celebrate when people do it right. You want to encourage. It's not 1980s yell at everybody and demean them in front of the peers. It's encourage experimentation and uniqueness of approach and make it work. If someone doesn't care, we could talk offline about what different ideas about how to do that. But if someone's trying with earnest, make it happen, and then to put it in a repeatable way so it's not completely qualitative, but some quantitative measures, what Eli's laying out here, peer scoring, just some back stuff on win rate, accuracy of forecast based upon how the mutual success plans are put in place, time to close after demo. There's different measures you can use for a heavy sales assisted model. If you're high volume, there's some different ways of low touch, different ways to measure those too. But this is a great way to pull it all together.
We could have spent basically these 5 best practices, your tips, could be a day workshop on each one if you really think about it. The idea of correlating activities. And listen, there are some comments in the feed here, right? We highly recommend looking for leading indicators, like Dave said, mutual plans, emails sent out. So try and find a wide, diverse range of activities that can provide those leading indicators. So that way you can get early indications. And this is a really hard problem to solve. I think this is a really, really hard problem to solve. And we've spent the last 12 to 18 months investing a ton in our correlation engine, whether it's in Salesforce or whether it's in the BI system of record, because we know in order, as the sales enablement industry is maturing, and it's maturing fast, we know that proving value and we know that quantifying impact and being able to measure that the activities that we're investing in, whether it's virtual coaching, whether it's virtual onboard, whatever those activities are, that they're yielding the outcomes that we expect. And if as sales enablement leaders, if you can't answer those questions, you're gonna be challenged in the future to continue getting the investments that you're getting. And as VPs of sales, you need that information as CROs, and clearly CEOs need all that. And so, I'm really grateful, David, that you shared, your insights. These slides are available, and we did distill this down to a word, right? If you look at these 5, right? Make it easy. Optimize how reps learn from each other. Develop your teams to perform your best. Everyone is on message. Lead by expecting what you inspect. Those 5 tips work out to be one word: model, right? And you want to model the right behaviors. You want to model the right sellers. You want to model the right outcomes. You want to model the right sales process to map to your buyer's journey, right? So I love this, and I love what we've come up with, Dave. This has a lot of legs. I think I can see us building a whole curriculum and a whole program just around your framework of model. It's killer. And ultimately boosting win rates by modeling the culture, the coaching, and the cadence of getting your teams to collaborate and learn from each other is the secret sauce of winning sales organizations. And it's what David is sharing with us today. And we're super grateful that you've shared.
Can I share a final thought on that?
Yeah, please.
First off, thank you for you and then Alice and Gerhard and the Sales 3.0 team. I want to thank my team, because I just get to represent all the hard work they put into putting it in, and all the extended staff around us with building the product and marketing it. Because while I get to be a spokesperson, it's just representing a great team and some ideas that we've come up together. So thank you for this forum. I hope this was helpful for all of you. We wanted to pay it forward. All of you were sharing some stuff that's worked for us, and best of luck with you crushing your number.
Amazing. Alice, one last sentence, if I may, and then I know we went a little longer, but it's all good. There's been some great conversations. Listen, everyone, we shared a lot of ideas. We shared a lot of tips and insights. The slides are available. I know the session will be recorded, but if anyone is interested in a trial where they could actually experience virtual coaching in real time, it's our gift to you. It's our gift to this community. We'll give you a trial so that way you can get your teams learning from each other, practicing their pitches, and being better at selling and boosting their win rates. And with that, again, David, thank you very much. Super grateful to you. Our partnership, our friendship, it's amazing. And thank you, Alice, and the team at Sales 3.0 for all your help.